I support Secretary Shinseki. I've known him a long time. This is an individual who has the responsibility, as he has said, to be accountable. The president said yesterday that there has to be accountability. There does have to be accountability on right up and down the line. But I think we've got to fix the problem. That's the real focus here.
Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel talking about the situation with the VA, the investigations, and also the VA Secretary Eric Shinseki talking about accountability. Before we start, a little accountability here. Apologize to Elise. She had some feedback in her earpiece during that last panel, and wasn't sure where we were going, but I knew it was something.
Thank you.
Let's start with the VA. Obviously, this is a growing scandal for both sides of the aisle, and it seems like the outrage is getting more intense, but yet the response is a wait and see. How long will that hold?
It's hard to say. There's mounting criticism on Capitol Hill and on the campaign trail, including by several Senate Democratic candidates, including the challenger to Mitch McConnell, Allison Lundergan Grimes, came out and said Eric Shinseki ought to resign. And so this is placing additional pressure on the White House, which wants to look like it's on board with those Senate Democrats. And we've heard President Obama say repeatedly that things are happening, that they're going to wait until the investigation report comes back, but that they're pursuing actions in the meantime. In fact, he hasn't outlined what those actions are. He seemed to suggest that he would be talking to veterans who were on the wait list, but in fact, the White House cannot corroborate that that has happened yet. So there are still a lot of questions about what they're doing.
Charles.
They're using the playbook, the Stonewall playbook, that worked in the other scandals. And the reason it could work, let's say, in Benghazi, is you could say, we're having an investigation, so we can't talk about it. But there's no source from the outside of information other than the investigations. Here you get every night a relative of somebody who died, who's on the list, who is suffering, giving testimony as to what actually happened. So to say we can't know what happened unless there's investigation or until it comes in is simply untenable. I don't think they understand that. It's rather simple. And in the end, it's going to be absolutely a position they're going to have to cave on, and Shinseki is going to have to go.
Yeah, I can't imagine Shinseki lasts another week at this point, because you have mounting pressure politically, as Elise suggests, but you also have, story after story after story. There's a new story out of Miami today, a detective, VA detective, who was talking about rampant drug dealing, talking about making appeals for additional security to the chief of staff of the hospital. He was told specifically not to investigate missing drugs. This stuff is bad now, and it's going to get considerably worse before it gets better, and I don't think Eric Shinseki can hang around while all of that happens.
We'll speed up the lightning round here. Conyers in Michigan, a judge rules that he can't be on the ballot. Then late today, another judge rules, you know what, he can be on the ballot. A big deal for the longest serving, or one of the longest serving members of Congress.
In fact, I think the most interesting thing here is there's evidence of actually political sabotage. The man that Conyers hired to get the signatures to get on the ballot initially actually has ties to his primary opponent, another Democrat. And so we're looking into that story very quickly. You don't see this happen directly very often, but it's certainly an interesting one for Conyers.
And quickly, Michigan, Steve, is interesting in and of itself.
It is. The Senate race is going to be very interesting in Michigan. There was a report in the Washington Post today that this was going to be a battle about climate change, and that the Democrat in the race, Peters, was going to try to take it to Terry Lynn Land, his Republican challenger, on the issue of climate change. I think that's a huge risk. Michigan has seen its union population diminish, but it's still 16.3% of the population there. That's enough to swing an election, and the union vote and the environmentalist vote are not on the same page on a lot of issues, including Keystone, which Peters had opposed.
Okay, a quick winners and losers. Steve.
My winner is Senator Ron Johnson, who responded to Jay Rockefeller's baseless charges that opponents of Obamacare are racist, not with an angry outburst, which is what I would have done, but with class and dignity, and by telling the story that he told so often on the campaign trail back in 2010 about his daughter and how she benefited from the healthcare system as we know it. I thought it was a classy response, and he deserves a ton of credit for doing it. My loser is Clayton Kelly, the Tea Party activist who filmed Rose Cochran, the wife of Senator Tad Cochran, in her nursing home down in Mississippi. You can't let your politics come before humanity.
Elise.
My winner is Julian Castro, who's now the HUD secretary. He's entering the national stage, and he's likely to be a Democratic candidate on the national level in the future. And my loser is Chris McDaniel, in fact, that Mississippi state senator whose campaign has been thrown into question because of these blogger accusations.
Charles?
Winner is General Sisi in Egypt. There's an election coming up. He's going to win, and he will be the president, probably dictator for life, which is the way it works in Egypt. Loser, the myth of the Republican Civil War. Tea Party activists energized the primaries. They are not sulking away. The better candidates, the ones who fill the Buckley rule, the most electable conservative in the field, has won almost everywhere. That bodes very well for Republicans in November.